Hello, in this video we're going to talk about forms and form validation. So today we're going to go through all the things that you can use in a form and how to validate them. Some of them are fairly easy to do and some of them are a little tricky. Let's start by doing our tutorial boilerplate. We'll add our material app and our scaffold and our app bar. We'll go ahead and add a floating action button. Okay, so we have the app bar and the save button set up. So the first thing we're going to do is set up our form. So we're going to add a key up here below the form app state here. And then in the body, we will create the form. At the top of the form, we'll use a key. And then we'll go ahead and just create a placeholder. Like that. Down here on the floating action button under on pressed, we're just going to print to the console. And of course it's telling us to avoid print calls, but we're just printing there for this tutorial. So when we press the save button over here, it should now say form submitted in the debug console. So now we're going to add a text form field inside the body here, and we'll just make it the user's name. I'm going to start with a column. So now this name field is showing up here. We can add a validator to this for some validation. So right here. So if the value that's put in the text field for name is either null or empty, we're going to return field is required and it's going to show up as an error. If it is populated, it's going to return null and be successful. So down here in the on press now, we're going to add our validator. And then if it validates successfully, we're going to save it. And then we'll still print form submitted. I shouldn't have deleted it, just for a reference point. So now if I leave it blank and hit save, it says field is required. If I put something in it, it goes away. So validating an email address is very similar. We're still going to use the text form field, but we'll use different validations. So let's go ahead and add the text form field. So we still want to validate that it is not null and not empty. So I'm just going to copy that and paste it down in here. Then we're going to take this regular expression here. I'm not going to talk a lot about regular expressions here, but you can kind of tell it's word with the @ symbol and a word and the period and another word. So we'll take that now. So what this is saying is if the pattern does not match the value that was put in the text field, and you can tell it's not by this exclamation point here, then it's going to return invalid email address format. If it is in the correct format though, once again, we're going to return null. So we'll test this one. We'll just type some words in, hit the save button. It says invalid email address format. I can remove everything as well, and it says field is required. So then if I put in email@address.com, it is now successful. The password also uses the text form field. Let's go ahead and add that. So we have the text form field. We have it using the label text password. You'll see it over here and we can type in it. You'll notice that it is visible. If you want it to act like a normal password, right here you can put obscure text true. And then you'll notice that it does hide it after that. But for this tutorial, we're not going to have that in here. You know what? I'll leave it in here, but I'll comment it out so you'll have it there for reference. So again, right here, we'll add a validator. We'll once again want this null or empty. And we can copy this part right here as well. And then we'll just say invalid password format. And then the pattern we'll use for this one, I'll paste in right here. So again, I'm not going to go into a lot of details about regular expressions. We just want the password to be at least 8 characters, have at least 1 uppercase, 1 lowercase, 1 number, and 1 symbol. So we'll try this. I'll just type some stuff in. It says invalid password format. But if I do something like test at pass 1, that should make all of the things. Hit save and it's successful. And of course, in a real life scenario, you may want to use a return similar to this. And it just gives them the information they need to know. So when I come back over here, I'll just remove the 1. It tells you everything. Password must be at least 8 characters, include an uppercase letter, number, and a symbol. So now we're going to do a drop-down, which is still close to a text form field. First thing we're going to do is add a variable up here under form app state. This will hold the value of our drop-down. Then down here under the password text form field, we're going to do a drop down button form field. So right here, I'll put the value, which is going to be tied to that variable that we created. And then I'm going to add some drop down items. We'll copy and paste that one. And we'll just make this one A with a value of A. Copy that, do 2 more. And we'll do B. And C. Then right down here, we're going to do an onChanged. So now we have our choose here, and when you select it, you can see A, B, and C. So we can select any of those that we want to select. So now we'll add the validator underneath this onChanged here. And then we could just say if drop down value is empty, return, you must select A, B, or C. And then if it's not empty, which means that you'll see here the choose is empty. So it's wanting you to choose A, B, or C. So if it is on A, B, or C, the value will not be empty and it will just return null. So we can test that. I'll hit save. You must select A, B, or C. So I'll select B and it goes away. So checkboxes and radio buttons are a little bit more complicated because it doesn't seem like they support validator by default in Flutter, at least on my research. But there is a workaround for it using form field. So we're going to put these in their own files just to clean it up a little bit. So we're going to start by creating a folder called components. And then we'll create a file called checkbox.dart. So inside that file, I'm going to import the material package. And I'll create a stateful widget. We'll call it Checkbox form field. Right here under this checkbox form field state, we're going to create a variable. And then we'll remove this container here and create a form field widget. And then we're going to need a builder in there that will house the checkbox. So we're going to show the checkbox. The default value is going to be false based on this variable up here. And then on changed, whatever value the checkbox has will be set back into that variable. And then we will notify the state that the value did change. Now we have to plug it into main.dart. So I'm going to come over here. At the top, I'm going to import the components. Checkbox.dart. And then we should now be able to just go down here below the drop down button form field and type checkbox form field. Hit save, and there's our checkbox. So because we're doing this kind of custom here, we need a text area where we can show the error message. So I'm going to grab this checkbox here, and I'm going to do a column. And we'll put it back in there. So below the checkbox now, we're just going to do a text widget. So what this says is, if the error text exists, show it, otherwise just show blank. Then we'll give it some style. And we'll just make it the error color. So now we can add the validator to the form field. We'll put it right here under the builder. So what this says is, if the checkbox is not true, because we have this right here that says not, we will return, you must check this box. If it is set to true, then we will return null. So we'll try it. You must check this box. I'll check the box, and it goes away. And then the radio button will be very similar to this. So let's go ahead and create a file under components. We'll call it radio.dart. Again, we'll import the material package. We'll create a stateful widget and call it radio form field. Up here at the top, we'll create a variable. Then we'll create our form field. We'll do our builder. We'll return a column. Then we'll do our first radio button right here. We'll give this one a value of top. And this group value here we will tie to the variable that we created. Then we'll grab this radio button, copy it, and paste it. And we'll name this one bottom. And then we'll go ahead and create our text widget to show our error message. It's the same as we had in the checkbox. Now we'll import these into the main.dart file. And down here, we'll just do radio form field. so we can see them move. So now we'll go back to the radio.dart file and add our validator. So if the radio value equals bottom, we tell them you must choose the top radio button. If it equals top, then it's just going to return null. So we'll put it on the bottom, hit save. You must choose the top radio button, hit the top one, it goes away. So finally, we're going to take all of these values and print them to the console if we have a successful form submission. We can go back to main.dart now. Up here under the drop-down value, we're going to add a map. We'll just call this field values. Under the name text form field, we're going to add an onSaved. We'll set the state. And we'll just say field values name equals value. And we put the exclamation point on it to say we guarantee it's not null because we're doing that validation up here. We're just going to copy this now. Go down to the email address one. Change this to email. And we'll go down to the password one. Change this to password. I think we can still do this on the drop down button as well. We'll just call this one drop down. And we'll set this value right here to the drop down value. Or we could do value.toString. That works as well. And then down here in the onPressed, instead of having this print now, we're going to iterate through that map and show all the field values in the console. And again, it's warning us about using print, but we're just doing this for the tutorial. So I'll clear our console. Over here, we've got everything set. So I'm going to hit save. And there we go. There's our name, there's our email, there's our password, and there's our drop down option. But you'll notice we don't have checkbox and radio in there. We have to do a little bit more to get those working. We're going to create a function up here at the top called setFieldValue. Then down here in the checkbox form field, we're going to type in callback setFieldValue. So we're going to pass that function down into the checkbox form field so we can access it and return that value. We have to also remove the const here. Up here at the top of checkbox form field, right here, we're going to type in final function callback. And then here by key, we're going to type in required this callback. And now down here under the validator, we'll type in onSaved. And we'll do widget callback checkbox value. And then we will add toString here because it is a Boolean. So now if we clear our debug console and we hit save over here, you'll now see that checkbox equals true in the list. So we'll do similar for the radio button. Right here, we're just going to do callback setFieldValue. We'll remove the const again. Up here at the top, we'll once again do a final function called callback. Here we will make it required that we receive the callback. Then down here at the validator, I'll type in onSaved. So right here, we'll just type in widget.callback radio and then we'll just use the radio value. And the reason we want to use radio value here instead of the value is just to make sure that it is set to something. So we'll open up our console and hit save. And there we go, radio equals top. So there's you some examples of using text fields with the email address, password, or just standard strings, Dropdown, checkbox, radio buttons. And I just did a video on the floating action button that I'll link here if you want to take a look at that. And hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see more, please consider subscribing, and I hope to see you in the next one.